Well, hello, everybody. My name is Making Sang, first name May King. And today we've got the incredible Nicole Mcgill Higgins. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for asking. Now, let's tell the world who you are and what you do.
So I'm Nicole McGill Higgins, as you just said, and you said it right because everyone kind of stumbles with the double-barreled name, like you do. And stop making me laugh. And I'm a belonging leadership coach. So I work in the space of diversity and inclusion, equity and equality, mainly belonging. So that's kind of what I do, or that's my title. So what that probably means, people thinking, what the hell does that mean? Because, we've all got these new titles now, right? So what that basically means is that, I work a lot around diversity and inclusion, but I think really it's around that sense of belonging. I personally feel that diversity and inclusion can be divisive. I do think it's important that we home in on different demographics, underrepresented groups. But when we're talking to leaders and I go into organizations and talk about inclusive mindsets, how do you cultivate that? What behaviors, what does that look like? What is psychological safety, for example? What's cultural intelligence? What's empathetic leadership? And lots of organizations, as you probably know, they're trying to be more inclusive at the moment. Diversity and inclusion is huge. It's like, what do we do? How do we do it? How do we create it? So I started really talking about anti-racism. And because of the George Floyd murder, lots of organizations did. And many organizations wasn't even speaking about anti-racism or any form of diversity and inclusion before George Floyd. Many were, but it was kind of, as we all know, highlighted. It became personified around that time. So what I actually do is I coach senior leaders in this space who have made a public announcement or an internal announcement that we are going to start doing D&I. We are going to start doing diversity and inclusion. But they've said it, but they don't know how to accomplish it. They don't know how to cultivate it. So I coach senior leaders around, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What should we be doing? But I also do public speaking around belonging. I also facilitate conversations, and I also do workshops. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Now, it's really interesting because, when you talked about, talking to senior leaders, they obviously know, post George Floyd, that diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's something that every organisation needs to be aware of, needs to ensure that, it filters through every aspect of their business, which is why they approach you. Yeah. But like you say, DEI, it kind of, for some organisations, and, I'm not picking on them, but for some, DEI is like a tick box. Let's just, let's just bring someone in so that we can tick that box and say that we are, So how do you unpack that when you, have you been faced with that situation before?
Well, to be fair, when I get a new client, one of the first things I ask, to be honest, Making, is why. I want to know the why. And I would say that I'm probably about 60-40 now, but 60% of my clients have actually brought me in because a major incident has happened, unfortunately. Something has happened that has highlighted that they do have an issue, so they now want it to be fixed. And normally that's a quick fix. And it's not a quick fix. This has to be embedded in the culture of your organization. So then the next question I would ask is, do you even know the culture of your organization? How transparent have you been around this agenda that you now want to introduce? How do you plan to cascade it through your organization? How transparent are you willing to be? How vulnerable are you willing to be? So I throw all these questions because once I've got those answers, then I will know if you're ready. And then I will say the worst thing you want to do is to open this up and be tokenistic and disingenuous. And that kind of line of conversation is going to let people start to think, regardless of how tokenistic you intended to be before the conversation. When you start throwing those type of questions at people, they'll be like, ooh, tokenistic, ooh, disingenuous. They're words that people don't like. That's why I use them.
So, amazing. I love it.
So I do get faced with, I ask those questions first. And then for me, it's a matter of, do you want to go away and think about it? Or if you've got the answers, let's unpack that and let's discuss what is it. But I think it's that classic coaching question is I tend to ask, once you've brought me in, you're now going to pay me and commission me to do this piece of work. What does good look like in 6 to 12 months' time? What do you want your staff to feel like? What do you want your organization to look like once this has been done? Because once you start it, you can't really stop, because what you're actually doing is you're asking people about their lived experiences. Some people are going to be reliving trauma, to be fair, especially if they haven't had a good experience in the workplace around progression, around their onboarding, around whatever. They're just their everyday life. What does it feel like to work in this organization? So I asked that kind of blue sky question. What do you want at the end of this? What does this look like? And then let's work backwards. And then obviously budget.
Love it. Now, Nicole, you're going to be one of the incredible speakers for Unleash Your Inner Rebel Conference.
Hey.
And one of the things that I took away from what you mentioned just then, with some of the clients that you've worked with, is belonging. Now, you're going to be talking about that on the day, aren't you?
I am. Yes, I am. We're both like...
Now, do you want to share just a teeny little insight into what to expect on June the 14th?
I can tell, teeny, I like that, because we're not telling everybody everything, because if you really want to know, you'd book a ticket and you would come. So what I will be talking about is how to cultivate that. What is belonging anyway? How do you cultivate that in your organization? What are the steps, the practical steps that you would take to do that, and kind of attaching everything that comes with that belonging piece? It's important. We talk about D&I. You've got organizations that have every letter under the sun. So EDIB, IDID, all these other words, but they're actually individual words, and they're each step that you have to be taken, but we don't clump them together. So what does diversity mean in your organization? What is inclusion? What is equity? What is equality? What is belonging? And for me, these are the vehicles or the steps that you need to have that kind of sense of belonging, and for everybody to have that voice in the room. So that's what we'll be talking about. And there'll be a fantastic Q&A section at the end, which I'm really looking forward to, because that's what it's about for me. I really want people to walk away, one, having their questions answered, and two, just being able to contribute to the conversation. Plus, I'm going to be around for the day anyway, networking, speaking to people. So anybody who is coming, please approach me afterwards or even before, and let's have a conversation.
Love it. Now, Nicole, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Very excited that you're going to be there for the whole day, so that people can come forward and ask you those questions that they've been dying to answer, ask of you. So any final words before we end this broadcast?
Yes, apart from go and book your ticket and come, I would say as much as I talk about my passion is stronger than my fear, because being public speaking, doing this work, I never thought I'd be doing it. So really my inner rebel made me do it. And that's what really resonated with me with this conference. It's like, it just sounds like your rebel did it, and I my husband's called Maverick. So, we're like the Maverick couple. So I'm a rebel. So when you think about it, this work can be quite tiresome. It can feel quite lonely. You do feel like you're challenging all the time. So when you say my inner rebel made me do it, I think that's acceptable. I really do. I think that's an acceptable answer. Why did you do it? My inner rebel made me do it.
Well, thank you so much again for your time, Nicole.
Oh, thank you.
Do join us June the 14th. Come and buy your ticket now. Click on the QR code. Join us in person. Come and meet Nicole in person. Or if you can't, come to the hybrid online experience. Either way, buy your ticket June the 14th, and we will see you there.